Alright, so our next unit, we are actually splitting it into 2 units. It's going to be genetics. And genetics has a lot of things to look at. We have Mendelian genetics and non-Mendelian. So the first thing we're going to look at is Mendelian genetics, and that comes from, the name comes from the person Gregor Mendel, which we're going to look at a little bit in this unit. Alright, so we are going to start with remember. Remember that we have chromosomes. Our DNA coils up into these chromosomes, and on those chromosomes are our genes. Each gene codes for a certain trait. Alright, so we have several or many genes on each chromosome. Here's chromosome 1, it has a pair, alright, and we get our traits from those chromosomes. Since you have 2 copies of each chromosome, alright, one came from mom, one came from dad, you've got 2 copies of each gene. Alright, now we call those alleles. Okay, since they're different versions, they're not exactly the same. Your mom and your dad are not exactly the same. They're not. Okay, so we have 2 different versions of that gene in each of our chromosomes. That we call those alleles. That's the name for them, biology terms. Okay. Moving forward, those alleles determine what traits you have. All right. So depending on what you got from mom, what you got from dad, you have what we call homozygous or heterozygous. All right, alleles. Now, easy way to remember this. And for most kids, it's pretty easy. When you think of the prefix homo, you think homosexual, same sex. Well, that's what it means. That's what the prefix homo means. It means same. Okay? So, 2 identical alleles. So you have big A, or little a. One of these came from mom, one of them came from dad. But they're both the same. That means they're homozygous. If they were different, one was big, one was little, that means it's heterozygous. Right? The word hetero means different. Okay? For homozygous, you also see these called purebred. For heterozygous, hybrids. Hybrid means a blend, a mix of different things. Okay? Now, when we have these sets here, we have these sets of alleles. There's always 2 because there's 2 chromosomes. Those sets of alleles are called the genotype. They are the actual genes that you get from your parents, or that an offspring gets from their parents. So we call that the genotype. Gene. Okay? The genetic makeup. It can either be big, little, or little. So we have 2 different versions of homozygous and 1 version of heterozygous. Okay. Now, looking forward. An organism's genotype will determine what it looks like. So what your genes are determines what physical traits you have. And we call that the phenotype. Pheno, this first part here, pheno means physical. All right. PH for physical, PH for pheno. The physical appearance is the phenotype. So my examples, purple flower, white flower. Here's a purple flower, here's a white flower. All right. That doesn't tell us anything about the genes. It just tells us the physical characteristic, the phenotype. All right. If it's a dominant allele, that's going to be the uppercase. So we say, we'll use big A, dominant, it will show. All right, that's Mendelian genetics. The dominant takes over and shows, and we call that being expressed, to show. Okay, if it's a recessive, that would be our little letter. So our little a, it doesn't get shown. It gets blocked out by the dominant, unless you have 2 of them. So if you have little a, or little b, then it would show because there's nothing else there. There's nothing but recessive, so you have to see that. All right, so in these flowers, purple is a dominant. So if you have big R, it's going to be purple. If you have big R, little r, there's still a big R there, so it's also going to be purple. But when you have the two recessives, the two little r's, you see the white. Okay, we call this homozygous, right here, dominant, or heterozygous. And then the recessive, homozygous recessive. Okay. Alright, so chromosomes and mitosis. Remember mitosis, making, doubling everything, making a new cell. That's dealing with those chromosomes. They line up in the middle, they split apart after they've replicated, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So, mitosis only creates body cells. Alright, so mitosis creates body cells, and the term for that is somatic. Alright? Somatic are every cell in your body except for one particular type. Okay? So, somatic cells, they pair up. You have one from each parent. So we have a red here and a red here. One of these is from mom, one of them is from dad. Alright? We call that diploid. Right? Diploid. Di, that prefix di means two. Alright? Or double, if you think about it that way. We have two of these. So for every set of chromosomes, we have a 2n number of chromosomes. 2 times the number. So here's one. Here's 2 times that. There's another one. Here's chromosome 2. We got 2 times that. There's another one. So for 2 times n, we would have 46 total chromosomes. We have 23 pairs. All right, 23 pairs of chromosomes, 46 total. All right, chromosomes in body cells, they are homologous pairs. There comes that prefix homo again, meaning the same. If you look at these right here, these two red ones, they're the exact same. Same shape, same length, got the same pinch in the middle. The purple ones, same length, same shape, same pinch in the, towards the one end. They are homologous. You get one from mom, one from dad. If they're not the exact same, bad things happen. Your genes don't match up right. All right. Okay. Moving on. So that was mitosis. Mitosis is somatic cells. Now we're getting into how offspring are made. This is meiosis. Meiosis is very similar to mitosis, but we got some extra stuff added in. Meiosis makes what we call gametes. These are sex cells. Okay? For girls, for females, these are your eggs. For guys, it's sperm. Alright? Those are sex cells. They go through a different process than normal cells in the body to be made. Alright? Sex cells, sperm and egg cells, only have half the number of chromosomes. So we call them haploid, or half. Why can they only have half? Why can't they have the full amount of chromosomes? Well, you think about it. The sex cell from your dad, the sex cell from your mom, they came together, they made you. Well, in order for you to have 46 total chromosomes, you couldn't have had a full set in that sex cell from each parent, because then you would have had 92. Way too many. So those sex cells have to be cut in half and have half the number of chromosomes, so 23 in each of those, so that when those two, that egg and that sperm, come together, you have that total set of 46. So you only have one set of each chromosome in your sex cells. Okay? Now, how we get there? Here's the comparison: diploid to haploid. All right, diploid. You're gonna have a drill over this coming up as well. Diploid. That di means two. Sorry, my pen's not working too well today. Haploid, HA, half. Oh, that pen is not working. That's supposed to be a 2. 1/2. Alright, so diploid contains a pair of homologous chromosomes, meaning they have 2 of the same. There's our 2. These are somatic cells. Alright. Haploid contains 1/2. It only has 1 of each gene. So we looked at 1 in. If you think about math, if you have X, there's an imaginary 1 in front of it. Well, it's the same thing here. There's 1 set, and these are our gametes. Okay. Now, how are these things made? That's going to be the key here. Alright, move my face out of your way. To produce gametes, okay, DNA has to be replicated just like normal in mitosis. The same thing's happening here. So we go through a full stage of mitosis, basically, and you have those homologous chromosomes come together and they form double. They form a tetrad. That prefix tetra means 4. We have 4 chromosomes here, okay? 2 of each. Now, they can exchange DNA. This is how we get genetic variation. This is how you look totally different from your brother or sister, because those things, when those chromosomes are together, if they happen to touch and they swap some information, it's still the same genes. It's just now they're on different chromosomes, okay? So it increases the number of gene possibilities, gene combinations. Now with mitosis, you only divide that cell once because you want to get 2 totally the exact same 46 chromosomes body cells. Meiosis, we take that and we divide it once, and then boop, we divide it again. So now we're going to have 4 cells at the end of this. Now, they're going to be 4 cells, but they're going to be 4 different cells. Every single one of them is going to be different. They're haploid. Okay, they only have half the number of chromosomes. So they might only have gotten 1 part of hair color for each. Well, they do. They only get 1 part. But now, if black is dominant to blonde, one of those cells, or one of those new cells has black, one of them has blonde, the odds are increasing on what your offspring are going to have. Black hair, blonde hair. Okay. So, mom had 46 chromosomes. Once we divide during meiosis, the sex cells only have 23. Dad, 46 chromosomes in his cells. Meiosis, 23 in the sex cell. When you put those 2 cells together, we get our normal 46. So we have 23 from dad, 23 from mom. Okay. So here's meiosis. Okay. We have our normal thing that happens during mitosis. You got all spindle fibers forming, nucleus breaks down, centrioles move to opposite ends, spindle fibers attach. Now these chromosomes, instead of all lining up straight, they line up in pairs. So now you have what's called tetrads. And it pulls one of them to one end, one of them to the other end, and that's meiosis 1. Just like mitosis. So here's mitosis. Now we have 2 genetically identical cells. But notice that the chromosomes are not exactly the same. They got pulled different ways. They're still the same, chromosome, but they have different genes or different codes for those genes. Now instead of stopping here like mitosis would, guess what? Meiosis, boom, does another one. Because remember, we have to divide it twice to get down to 23. So now, if we looked at this cell compared to these 2, you see you have half. There's 1/2 of that. There's 1/2 of that. And there's the other one. So this would be 46. Each of these would be 23. Okay? And so we're making 4 genetically different daughter cells. Mitosis, we made 2 genetically identical daughter cells. So that's a little bit of that comparison. All right. We will look at comparing those two, mitosis and meiosis, tomorrow. You get a little quick. It'll be just a quick bit of notes, and then you're going to do some actual pairing of genes with the smiley face genetics. Make sure you go and do your attendance check today, and we will get back to it again tomorrow.